Power rankings for the upcoming week 3. Uh, well, it's a crazy week. Had a lot of moving around there in the rankings for sure. Um, Not what I expected it to be, though. 2 weeks in, it has changed from the beginning of the year for sure. At the bottom of the barrel, I got the Bears, number 32. Uh, they got a week 1 win, but it was in the rain and super sloppy, and that game was honestly kind of a crapshoot. I'm a Fields fan, but there's absolutely nobody around him. Uh, and I ranked them last because they are the poorest managed team in the NFL. One of my previous segments, I mentioned that the Bears always draft a quarterback and reach for it, and they never set him up for success. And you thought they did Mitch Trubisky bad. Well, they're doing Justin Fields extra bad. He doesn't even have Allen Robinson anymore. He doesn't have Khalil Mack. Roquan Smith's on his way out. Uh, I just they got a bad aura about that team. I don't think that they have any chance of making the playoffs in the near future unless they do something with their coaching or um, just revamp their offensive line. Like they need to go in. They have a bunch of cap room. They have a bunch of potential to get draft picks. So uh, good draft picks. Excuse me. Number 31, I got the Texans. Um, Even though my Broncos barely squeaked by them last week. The Texans show a lot of heart, but they have absolutely zero skill. They have Brandon Cooks, and that's it. Their running backs are always banged up. They're switching running backs every single week, it seems like. Um, so I got the Texans at 31 with a poor defense and a very lackluster offense. Number 30, I got the Seahawks. Um, Kind of the same situation as Houston. They got really, really bad skill players except for DK Metcalf. They did acquire Noah Fant, who I like. Um, I guess they still got Tyler Lockett, but Geno Smith can't. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Teddy Bridgewater. Can't throw the ball past 15 yards. You got to have everything going for you if they're gonna do anything. So I think with their best defender is Jamal Adams, and I think he's hurt, and that's they have no depth anywhere. They look like they are um, aiming to get a good draft pick, even though they squeaked one by my Broncos. Number 29, I got the Cowgirls, Dallas Cowgirls. Um, they don't have a bright future this year, I don't think. No matter if Dak's out 4 weeks or 8. Amari Cooper was the glue to that offense, and it's showing. And their offensive line's been getting more and more and more depleted every year. So Zeke can't do anything. They gotta run Zeke 20 carries, 15 carries a game because they paid him. Even though clearly Tony Pollard is a better back. Their defense, all you got is Micah Parsons. Trayvon Diggs he's a stat stuffer. He had 12 picks last year, but you know, letting 1,100 yards just on him alone, that's that's ridiculous. He allowed 1,100 yards last year total to the receiver he was facing, which is a crazy amount for a number one corner. Um, so I think that yeah, Dallas doesn't really have a shot. I think they kind of screwed themselves when they got rid of Gregory and Amari Cooper, who were quiet leaders in that locker room. Number 28, I got the Jets. Um, if I would have had to predict at the beginning of the year, I'd have the Jets last all through the year, to be honest. But you know, they had a great draft, and Joe Flacco had a decent win last week. Does this mean that they're going to win more than 4 or 5 games? No, but their young stars are showing some uh, potential, and maybe a couple years down the road they start making a run. But this year, nah. All right, now we got at 27 the Atlanta Falcons. I was thinking about ranking them a little higher just because of how close their games were. They were very close to beating the Saints. Excuse me, and they always, I mean, always, they they came back against the Rams, but no one expected that either. So they're showing a lot of fight. Again, they got a lot of young talent too. Kyle Pitts, they got a receiver in the first round, and I just don't see a lot of hope for that defense. And until they put Desmond Ritter in, Marcus Mariota's capping that team off at very mediocre. So yeah, I got them at 27. Number 26, I got the Carolina Panthers. Um, kind of like the Falcons, they both their games so far this year have been very close. Um, Baker seems very jittery this year. He seems like he kind of. It looks like something is definitely in his head, and um, a lot of pressure. He number one overall pick going to Cleveland with a stacked team like that, and then you know Cleveland might have the talent, but they wreck quarterbacks, and I think Baker Mayfield's growth was stunted by Cleveland quite a bit. People say, "Oh yeah, he was put in the right position. He had good receivers. He had a good running back." Blah 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 blah. The teams can sabotage quarterbacks. Like if you're just not watching the games and just looking at the stats, you don't know what happened in that game. Last year, when towards the end of the year, when Baker was very hurt, I think it was the last game or the second to last game. He Nick Chubb was having a great year, and he was on fire. And when Baker came back, they had him throw against one of the best pass defenses 50 times while he is hurt, and they ran Nick Chubb 8 times. Now, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but that looks a little bit like sabotage right there, if I've ever seen it. So I think Cleveland didn't like Baker's attitude throughout the whole thing, and they never really meshed the way they should have. So like I said, his growth was stunted quite a bit by Cleveland, but hopefully Panthers can get some wins this year. I'm a Baker fan, but not a lot of hope. Um, Next up, 25th, we got the Indianapolis Colts. Very, very disappointing. Um, Matt Ryan was supposed to stabilize that offense with Carson Wentz taking it for a good, nice roller coaster ride last year. Uh, haven't seen a lot of stabilization in that offense. He's looking quite a bit like his off years in Atlanta, and I mean, Colts already have a shaky wide receiver core, but now they lost Pittman, and they're not running Jonathan Taylor 20 times a game. Like, I don't care if you're up or down, you run him 20 times a game because he's going to break a few off. He had like 2 or 3 carries in that Jaguars game through like the third quarter, and then they finally fed him like two carries in a row, and he busted off two like 15, 20 yarders in a row. And then they kept passing the whole game. So a lot of these teams are play calling. I think the play calling is, I think they're thinking that Matt Ryan is a lot better than what he truly is, and they're overestimating him. Uh, their defense is pretty sound, but they let the Jags score 24 last week. So I mean, how sound are they really? So I got them at 25. 24, I got the Tennessee Titans coming off a very bad loss last night. I think that they uh, are very shaky at quarterback right now because they're playing from behind because their defense is not holding up as much as it did last year. And when your defense can't hold up, you can't get a running game going as much. And when Ryan said in the earlier segment that Ryan Tannehill, when he's forced to pass, not very good. That's what they tried to do with him in Miami. They tried to make him the focal point, tried to make him pass quite a bit, and it didn't really work. Ryan Tannehill showed a lot of flashes when he was passing 20 yards or 20 attempts a game, and Derrick Henry's toting the rock 25 times a game. Yeah, those that play action rollout offense, he's very good at. But you put the ball in Tannehill's hands and say win the game for me, that he ain't gonna do it. Number 24 or 23, I got the Washington Commanders. Showed a lot of hope the first week. They Carson Wentz threw for 4 touchdowns after a really shaky year last year. I'm not a big believer in Wentz, but I like to pull for him because he's just really fun to watch. But last week he kind of went back down to came back down to earth a little bit, and he had a game like he had all last year, and that's why I got them ranked so low. But they have a shot if they play like they did that first week and they get their weapons involved. They're pretty deep at their skill positions. So I think that if they involve their skill positions more and Carson just settles down, but people have been saying for Carson to settle down for several years now and still plays erratic as can be. So um, number 22, I got the Cleveland Browns. They would not be that high if it wasn't for their talent level on that team. You got Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, Mari Cooper, uh, Clowney, Denzel Ward. I mean, they're pretty stacked at the talent level of that team. Jacoby Brissett, you can only ask so much from. I don't know what they were expecting out of him, but I mean, he's playing good, but he's not taking them over the top. Uh, I don't think Deshaun's going to come back and make an immediate impact at all. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure. I think that um, Jacoby may take the Browns like 500 or so. Through those 11 games, I could see him going like 5-6, maybe 4-7. But as a team as a whole, I could only see them squeaking by like 8 or 9 wins this year. Number 21, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Uh, I had a lot of hope in their defense coming into this year, and they showed out the first week, and then last week, uh, they kind of showed a couple holes that they had, allowing the Patriots to score 17 points. I mean, the Patriots have a very, very average offense, um, and the Patriots outgunned them on offense. Very boring game, but that's how a lot of the Steelers games are going to go. They're going to be ground and pound and good defense, but Mitch Trubisky is not the answer. You saw it last week. Trubisky had an okay week 1, but now he kind of same thing. Came back down to earth. I think Trubisky plays a lot like Jake Locker, if any of y'all remember him. Uh, got a low ceiling, injured a lot, fumbles a lot, but not going to take you places. If Trubisky ends up the start of the rest of the year, I don't see them winning more than 8 games, 7 games, solely because of their defense too. They're not going to develop any chemistry. Those young receivers, if you're going to put young receivers with a quarterback like Mitch Trubisky, who traditionally doesn't throw to the receivers, he kind of does the rollouts to the tight end, and he doesn't involve the receivers a whole lot. So it's going to stunt the growth of Pickens and all them if they keep rolling with Trubisky, which I think would be a very dumb move. But they probably will because they're a loyal team. So who knows? Uh, Number 20, I got the Las Vegas Raiders. I thought that they were going to be a big threat in the AFC West at the beginning of the year. I thought Chandler Jones would at least make their defense in the middle of the pack. Their defense looks horrible. And if things are even shaky at all on offense, they just get annihilated. Hence the fourth quarter of the Arizona Cardinals Raiders game. Their defense started giving up plays in the fourth quarter, and they just let them have it. And Derek Carr, I like his heart. He's an overachiever, no doubt. But he's a little clutch, but he will choke some games out too. Uh, I love what him and Devontae are doing so far, but week two now I think he only had a couple of receptions. So I think if he just can get everybody those main three, if you get Waller, Jacobs, and Devontae Adams involved in that offense, their offense will be running smooth. But as soon as they start doing these wacky plays and try to get fancy with it, like McDaniels tried to do with Denver, I called that too at the beginning of the year. McDaniels is going to flop. He's not a head coach. He's an offensive coordinator. That's why I got the Raiders at 20. Number 19, I got the Bengals, even at 0-2 and losing to the lowly Cowboys. I still believe in them. I love Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I think, is the next Tom Brady in a sense. Not the best thrower of the ball, not the best, most athletic. Kind of frail a little bit, tall guy, but clutch and makes the right throws. I think so far he's just been getting annihilated because of the offensive line. I think their coaching is getting ahead of themselves. You can't put any of these losses on Burrow or Chase because they've been connecting. Offensive line has not been protecting, and other receivers have been dropping the ball. And it's not a lot. The offensive line struggles. When a team has offensive line struggles, it goes to show how much it will impact your team. Think of this. They got Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, Higgins, Boyd, but they're 0-2, and they lost to the Cowboys, who are not very good. Offensive line. Offensive line affects how much time your quarterback has. Offensive line affects the holes that your running back's going to have. And if your quarterback can't pass, then people are going to be stacking the box. So even if there is good blocking, they're stacking the box if your quarterback can't pass. Doesn't have time to pass. And then another thing, if your quarterback doesn't have enough time to pass, your quarterback's going to be throwing it early or not on time, and your receivers are not going to be able to even get open. So offensive line, I think, is like number one key to they're the pillars of an offense for sure. Number 18, New England Patriots. Very basic team. Mac Jones, smart, but doesn't wow you with his throws. They're running back by like 3 committee. I think they got 3 running backs. They got a different receiver doing something every week. So their offense is very inconsistent. I think they just find matchups each week and they just try to take advantage of matchup advantages. And their defense is looking solid as well. I don't see them making the playoffs this year, though. That the AFC East is strong this year with Miami stepping up their game. So that's why I have the Patriots at 18. And number 17, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's another team I predicted like a sleeper team at the beginning of the year. And Trevor Lawrence is showing why he was the number 1 pick last week, beating the Colts 24-0. I think that Christian Kirk was people thought that Christian Kirk was underpaid, but I think Christian Kirk was valued right about where he should be. And he showed it again. He showed it as well. They got a two running back system that they got solid receivers. Marvin Jones is in there as well. Their defense is pretty solid. Um, if that division struggles, which Houston, Indianapolis, I mean Tennessee, I don't see that. I could see the Jacksonville Jaguars winning that division with a 9 or a 10 win record this year.